I've spent the last 4 years of my life in professional strongman, and I've been very lucky to have some incredible moments and a few that weren't so good.
I can see my tendon on my finger.
And today I'm gonna go over my 10 best and a few of the worst moments in the past 4 years. Whether you love me or hate me, you're gonna get something from this video. So together, let's watch, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the best and the worst moments of Mitchell Hooper. Coming in at number 10 is my 470 kilo or 1,036 pound deadlift at Giants Live. This is 5 kilos off my all-time personal best, but I was saying before this, there's no way I'm gonna be the guy who tries to lift 505. I didn't prep for it. I had one session in the suit. I had torn my calves a few days before doing a running for 30 days YouTube challenge. Of course, not in a major way, but here was 470. And honestly, I was surprised at how well it moved. A little bit of stickiness at the top, but I felt really, really good. And that was followed up by this lift here, which is my best attempt at 505. This is, before Thor this year, the closest that anyone had gotten. I got it just up to my knee. If it got over my kneecap, you can hitch that out and you can make it work. And I was surprised at the way it left the floor, and it left the floor pretty good. Now, in this circumstance, I was told by Laws before, and I asked, can I go do it? Is there a chance? He said, maybe a 5% chance. I said, cool, I'm gonna go try. And my thought was about staying in a good position and staying safe rather than actually lifting the weight. I think maybe if I had a little bit more aggression and I stuck with it a bit more, it's possible that I had it. But nonetheless, that 470 kilo comes in at number 10. Coming in at number 9, a lift from this year. This is a 535 pound big jerk. Now the context to this, my personal best was about 520 at this point. And in the show, everyone was hitting personal best. I was head to head with Thor, and he had just hit a massive personal best. And if I was to hit this lift, this was worth 3.5 points alone. There were a total of 6 guys tied for 232 kilos or more, and that's where I was before this lift. If I missed this, it would have costed me 3.5 points. I ended up winning the show by 2.5. And sometimes in strongman, it really does come down to little moments like this. So this is my 535 pound overhead press. I was really not technically great, and you can see in this video, we'll watch that back one more time. My left elbow, I constantly had problems with that elbow not locking out properly. And you can see that elbow, as I lock out, wavering and sort of locking, unlocking. And it's like walking a tightrope with 530 pounds over your head. But if you watch again, you can see that elbow, that is the number one thing that I'm thinking, like, please hold on, please hold on, please hold on. And you can see it comes locked and unlocked 3 or 4 times. That one sealing my victory at the 2025 Arnold's, 3rd Arnold in a row. That comes in at number 9. Now let's not go too far until we do an ego check. And this is my first fail. This was during my first ever professional victory at the 2022 Arnold Strongman Classic in the UK. And I'll let you watch for yourself. Head to head with Rano Heinlein, going really well. Shame. I try to say I'm like one of the most athletic guys, and then I'll do something like that. So if you can't laugh at yourself, who are you gonna laugh at? Moving swiftly on, coming at number 8. This comes from the Arnold Strongman Classic in 2024. This is my first ever attempt on the replica Dinnie stones. Of course, a historic piece of kit. The world record had just been beaten, and Evan Singleton set this at 34 feet and 10 inches. We had a marker on the ground. And this style of event had kind of been my nemesis. Trapping fingers underneath those little rings and all of that pain is horrible. I've done well at them before, but it just sucks. Now in this circumstance, as soon as I picked these rocks up here, I had so much adrenaline pumping through my body that it really didn't feel bad at all. And the rocks felt a bit awkward, but not that heavy. I was just step by step, a couple of stumbles here, as you can see. And then I end up passing the mark on the ground to say I had set the new world record. And for whatever reason, that moment, I thought it should be cool to just stop, look at the crowd. A bit of like a this is easy moment.
I'm here.
Because genuinely, I do think I had a reasonable amount more. And I stop here. We've got that picture. I love that picture. And set a world record of 40 feet. Now, I also didn't take advantage of the rule that's in place for Dinnie stones that you can pick them back up after 10 seconds, mostly because my thumbs were throbbing so bad that I don't think I would have moved them much more than a couple of inches. Ended up with the event win there. That was my second event win in a row. Of 3 event wins in a row I had that year. And en route to the largest Arnold victory margin of all time. Coming in at number 7, my 991 pound elephant bar personal best. This is the best raw lift I have ever done. This was this year at the Arnold's. And honestly, it felt like I had a bunch more. And this is why it cracks the list, because I think more than 1,000 pounds is absolutely on the cards. And you can see afterwards, I'm literally saying it's too easy. We got to put more weight on the bar. It's too easy. And this secured me second place in the deadlift. Hopefully this year at the Arnold's, the elephant bar is back and I can lift over 1,000 pounds off the ground, which would be incredible for me raw. I was never a strong raw deadlifter. The suit always helped me a lot, so I've built that up a tremendous amount over time. On to a next loss. A next fail, World's Strongest Man 2024, the first event of the finals. I pick up the frame. The frame is 330 kilos. I had just won the frame at the Arnold that was 400 kilos. I thought, this is so easy, like no problems. I am literally gonna sprint with this thing. I pick it up, take 5 or 6 steps, and I drop it. Pick it up and drop it, pick it up and drop it. And I thought, this is so strange. Like, I can't hold it, but it didn't feel that heavy. And reason being, my hands started just ripping open and ripping open. And this picture doesn't really do it justice, but I had open cuts across every single one of my knuckles, in the crook of my thumb, across all of the knuckles on the other hand, so deep on my right ring finger that it looked to be a tendon that I could see and would move as I bent my finger. And that was event 1. And then we had Atlas Stones, max keg toss, deadlift for reps. Really set out for a very difficult World's Strongest Man experience. And frankly, if you had a stronger grip, your hands wouldn't rip. So I think my grip is strong, could be stronger, and I think ultimately that lost me the title in 2024. But the year before, in 2023, this is one of the coolest moments for me. First event of World's Strongest Man finals in the year that I won. Tom and I were head to head, and that was sort of the thought of one of us two is probably going to win Worlds that year. And it's the shield carry, one of Tom's best events and one that I had never done before. So we both take off. Tom is much faster, but it's for distance, not for time. So I turn this first corner here and the shield is already slipping. At this stage, I knew that I needed at least 2.5 laps to get decent points. And I thought, if I don't do something, I'm gonna drop the shield before the end of this lap here. And so I stop and I thrust the shield upward to get it up higher on my chest, which was a big risk. It was raining at the time. It could have slipped down my body. I could have dropped it there and got 0 points, and that would have costed me the World's Strongest Man title. I finished the second lap there, and the first thing I'm thinking is, can I make it halfway to secure those good points? I'm not really thinking about Tom at all. Tom finishes the third lap and he drops the stone. I hear that straight away, and I am inching my way along, and I think it's not out of the question for me to be able to hit that mark. As the shield starts slipping lower and lower, my fingers are digging into the edge of that shield, which is much sharper than you would think. And the shield comes so low that I can't walk forwards anymore. So I have to crab walk, and I end up beating Tom's distance by only a couple of feet. And that was a synopsis of how World's Strongest Man went that year. I had just a lot of things going my way. And one of those things was this next event that I'll show you. This is the first event from day 2, the Monster Dumbbell, 309 pounds. At this stage in the contest, I was on 25 points. Alexi had 24.5 and Tom had 24. We had, in the finals, we had max dumbbell, which Alexi is really, really good at. And most recently on a heavy dumbbell, I came 8th out of 10. We had bust pull, which Tom is very good at. Alexi won the event last year, and I, at World's Strongest Man the year before, the only other bust pull I've done, came 8th out of 10. And then we had the Atlas Stone series, where the last year at World's Strongest Man, I came 9th out of 10 and hurt myself on the last stone. Tom obviously has that one in the bag, and I thought maybe I could come on the podium. Like, podium's a really good goal. And this was the first event. I thought, I'm gonna lose some points here. This is not a good event for me, but I'm gonna do my best. And my best happened to be much better than I thought. Before this 309 pound dumbbell, I had to hit a 253, a 275, which was a personal best, a 291, which is a new personal best, and then this lift here at 309. I get this up to my shoulder, and it doesn't feel quite right the first time. I dip and drive, and it just falls out of line a bit, but it didn't feel like it was impossible. And so I put it behind my head. I angled it upwards a little bit more, and then I just thrust it as hard as I could and dropped my body under. Now, this is a bit contentious. Should this get a down call or not? This body position I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Let me know in the comments if you think it should get a down call. Regardless, I stabilized the dumbbell overhead for maybe, we'll call it 2 seconds. Elbow locked out, dumbbell not moving. And that was enough to get the down call and enough to tie for the event win. That was my first thought that maybe I could actually do this thing. And maybe I could win World's Strongest Man. Coming in at number 4, the yoke. The yoke has always been one of my best events. And this is 1,117 pounds. This is the show where I wanted to prove that I was strong, not just an athlete. And this is the heaviest event in this show. And you can see, I absolutely take off with the yoke. My finishing time was 11.06. Next closest was over 15 seconds. And I was very, very happy. Some cramping going on here in my calves. Otherwise, I was all good. But very happy to take the event win on the heaviest event in the heaviest show in the world in my first year in strongman, when I was at the time touted to be a really good athlete who wasn't that strong. All right, time for another fail. This is my worst fail. If you know, you know. And if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't. So this is the last event at the Arnold in 2024. I had already won the show. My daughter was born 2 weeks prior. Music that I had chosen for her was playing beforehand. I was trying not to lose it, trying not to cry. I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do a few things. Overhead press the stone, fine. I jog over, I lift the inverse stone. It was split time, and I thought, I'll just get great points here, fine. And then no one really had lifted the stone to shoulder other than Mateusz. But I thought, you know what, I'm that guy. And I say, do you know who's probably wanting to watch me be that guy? It's probably Arnold. I should probably pull Arnold up. I honestly was not planning this or thinking of it. I don't know what on earth was going through my head in this moment, but I think I was just maybe high on adrenaline or something. But this was a bad choice. This is a really bad choice. So I say, Arnold, come watch this up close and personal. And then he proceeded to watch me fumble around with this stone for the next 20 seconds. It does not leave the ground. It does not get close to my lap. Yeah.
Embarrassing.
Not good. Not good. That was tough. That's a tough one to watch, but funny. I'm happy I did it for the humor, not happy I did it for the aura points that I would have lost in that moment. But that's okay. You live, you learn. So there's some redemption in a very small way in this next clip. And this is Arnold Strongman Classic 2025. Arnold is again front row watching. I need to do 1 rep to seal my victory. Again, it's stone to shoulder. This is slightly different, and I was much more confident, but I learned my lesson. I was not confident enough to do anything stupid, like ask Arnold to watch me. So I lift this stone, and this is meaningful to me for a reason I'll explain in a second, but this stone was not a big deal to lift to shoulder. That sealed my victory here. I did 1 more for bonus points, maybe for a bit of gaining aura back in Arnold's eyes. Maybe I did, probably I didn't. If I were Arnold, I would forever think of me of that guy who forced me to watch him not pick up a stone. Shame. But what was really cool about this is not shown in this video, but we'll pop it up here. We'll find it. It was straight after the win. I was saying hello to Arnold. Ashley came down with Peyton, who is just over a year old at this time, and Arnold and Peyton, Arnold was just playing with Peyton a little bit, and having that moment as a family is really cool. Personally, I'm not a big celebrity guy, and it's just, you know, Arnold's another guy who's done incredible things that I have a lot of respect for, but, you know, I don't really fawn or think like, or tell people about how I've met Arnold or something, but it is very cool to have my daughter and my family say like, well, we shared this really cool moment at the end of a contest all together. And one day tell Peyton, this guy has done some pretty incredible things, and you've said hello to him in a way when you were incapable of saying hello. Coming in at number 2, this is the second best moment in my strongman career. This is a 218 kilo axle press. This is a world record. Now, the interesting thing is when I go to lift it this time, I get it onto my shoulders. It feels like I can. I go to press it, and I don't really commit to the split jerk. I wasn't really that close on the first one. I go again, and I'm really close. I just lose my footing a little bit. And so I asked, can I have a few minutes and can I just rest and have another crack at this? Now, this raised the stakes a lot because now I made the stadium of, say, 5,000 people at the Royal Albert Hall, wait for 5 minutes while I just did nothing and tried not to sweat on my shirt. And I thought, this is one of those moments in strongman and in my career that it either happens or it doesn't happen, and you don't get to relive it over and over, especially at the Royal Albert Hall, especially in that moment on your second crack. I wasn't gonna say, give me a third crack. And so this was it. It was make or break here. And one of the big things I wanted to tick off in my career was a meaningful world record. And to me, this ticks the box. So I get it up to my stomach. I get it up to my shoulders. And the clean felt a little bit easier the second time, but I thought I just have to commit to the split and drive as hard as possible. Locked that out. And honestly, there was more there. And afterwards, you do not see me react like that very often at all. That's the biggest reaction I've ever given to a lift. As excited as I've ever been. I spit all over myself, which is such a good look for me. But awesome. Now, the cool thing about this as well is in the history of the Royal Albert Hall, this is the loudest moment ever recorded in the venue. Amplified or unamplified was the cheering for that lift. That was really vindicating. It felt really, really good, especially because I had just lost the World's Strongest Man title. I thought I would love just to have a bounce back, to have something really cool happen. And this night provided just that. Now you guys can probably guess what number one is, and that is the final Atlas Stone run at World's Strongest Man to win my World's Strongest Man title. I was using Elite Tacky here. I had never used Elite Tacky once ever before. I really didn't train with Tacky much. I got Martins to help me, and he said if it slips on the first couple of stones, don't worry. Like, it's just slipping on itself, and that could happen. And you can see that it does happen. On the first stone, I get it up to the platform, no issue. It kind of bumps the edge a bit. And on the second stone, it slips. So I go to lift it up, and then I actually have to put it back into my lap, sit down and readjust. At that stage, I'm thinking, maybe we have a problem. But I get into that third stone, that was pretty solid. I still had good tacky onto this fourth stone, walked that in a bit, and I see I'm sort of close to Tom. I load this stone, and I figure that's enough to win, but I knew if I lifted the fifth stone, 100% the title was mine. And honestly, I have never lifted a 210 kilo stone with ease like that. It felt like I had more in the tank, and it was just one of those things that was going to happen, and I wasn't going to accept anything else. And then this moment of celebration is just awesome. If you look in the background, the fans at the show this year were absolutely insane. The venue was so ill-equipped for fans. When we arrived at the bus at 9 in the morning, there were people sat waiting until 5 p.m. around the Atlas Stone platform just to watch that event. It was 10 rows deep of people, maybe more. They had people were buying step ladders left, right, and center. People were on top of shipping containers to try to see what was going on. And you compare that to some other years at World's Strongest Man where there's not many spectators at all. And I think in terms of just pure sport chaos and fan chaos, this is probably number one. When you walked out to the venue, there were people like security holding people back to create a pathway. It was just so cool. Of course, I have personal nostalgia towards this moment. Now, that is my top 10 so far. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of the ones on this list are probably going to be the best things that happen in strongman. And not because I don't think I can lift more or accomplish other great things or win more World's Strongest Man titles, but because nothing is as good as the first. And I want to keep upping the ante and just see what can I do that continues to be the most memorable over and over and over. And there's going to have to be a part of personal pride, maybe when my two daughters are old enough to be aware of what's going on and they're cheering for me, or maybe a deadlift world record or something like that. Let me know. What do you guys think would top the list for marks to end my career? What might be able to take that number one spot? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Go ahead and roast me for calling Arnold up for absolutely no reason. That's still kind of like the most impactful one on this list, to be honest. I still think that's so funny. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. As always, lift heavy, be kind. Thank you for your support. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow.